I would like to say I'm grateful to all of those that are viewing my videos and had positive comments. I want to say something to somebody named Margaret. I had told her that I would make some sort of an answer. She wanted to know why or any positive things about the leader of this country, Belarus, Lukashenko, and why I like him, at least my take on that. So one thing that I like to live by, and I would think that a lot of people live by whether they know it or not, is something that a great being, whether you call him God or a human being, that he lived a long time ago, and he said something to the effect of, know them by their fruits, or by their fruits you shall know them. And of course I'm talking about Jesus. And when you see these politicians, they're all coming out with all these flowery words and like these speeches in United Nations. You all heard Joe Biden, and you hear a lot of these U.S. politicians talking about. I have to probably come over here where the light is better. You hear a lot of these politicians, talking how great they are and how much they love humanity and how Russia is bad and evil and Belarus is bad and evil. But you'd all have to come here to Belarus, and then you'd have to maybe, if I don't know Russian, but I've been watching for many years, maybe at least 30 years, Alexander Lukashenko, who's leading this country. And he says that he's an authoritarian, and he might be. So was Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, and he was a very, 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 I don't know if you'd call it bad or very strict authoritarian. If you have one, what do they call it in the Caribbean? Spliff. I used to live in the Caribbean. A spliff of marijuana, or a joint, or a little cigarette of marijuana, and you get caught, you get the death penalty for that. You go to jail for throwing your gum on the sidewalk. So, go to prison. All sorts of very stiff penalties for minor violations. And if you speak out against the government, if you go to jail. And none of that is that bad here. And some people in the West, they try to give you that impression that in Belarus you speak out against the government and something's going to happen to you. They come and kick in your door or something like that. But there's a lot of people that are speaking out against the government, obviously. And you saw these protests. It was in 2020. And I don't know, some couple of thousand people at least were on the streets. And they can take their photos, they can find out who all these people are, but the only ones that actually got into any kind of trouble are those that are leading that. And it's actually what they want is an overthrow of the government. So, and there are journalists, and they have stories, anti-government articles. So it's not like what they're telling you in the West. So, and it's just incredible. It's like there is. You can't criticize the government here. But I'll tell you what, I came here in 2001, and the country had lots of run-down buildings. You'd look at buildings and you think they're slums, nobody lives in there, they're abandoned or what. And I was thinking, you just couldn't believe it. But even though the apartments inside were quite nice and all, and the roads were always pretty good here in Belarus, but there were older cars. They had either Soviet-type cars. This was 2001. This is 10 years after the fall of the Soviet Union. And any kind of Western cars, or Japanese or what, they were all, not in that great a condition. They had a few of them that were nice, but the vast majority of them weren't. But now you see Maseratis and Bugattis and Mercedes and just regular cars that everybody has. Like, for example, there's a BMW coming right there. Or that's a Lada. That's a Russian-made car. It looks like a BMW though. But no, there is. Here's, I don't know. You see in the background, there's just regular old cars, just like you see in the West, if you can see that far. So anyway, Belarus has come a long way, and there's still some problems. Nothing is perfect here. And as far as, say, for example, during the COVID times, you can tell the value of a person in times of crisis, and that's true about a leader as well. So you'll know how good your leaders are when there's a crisis going. And when this crisis came with COVID, Belarus never locked people down. There was no lockdowns here, and nobody was ever forced to get vaccinated. And for a time, you had to wear a mask. I'm not even sure for how long that was. It might have been almost a year. I don't know. Maybe it was almost a year where they were requiring masks, or at least the businesses, when you walk into a business, they can tell you to put on a mask or else you're not allowed to go into the business. But then there was an event that happened. I believe it was in the Brest area where they were fining people. You had to pay a fine if you didn't have a mask. And then Lukashenko, the president, said, "Well, that's it now. You know, that was never the idea about all of this." So what he said is, now it's illegal to require people to wear a mask. So you cannot force people to wear a mask. It's against the law. So, and I find that great. And the reason I came to this country is because I was, things were getting close to where they're going to force you to get vaccinated. The leader of St. Vincent and the Grenadines was saying he wants 90% vaccinated. And he was trying to move from one group to the other. Teachers and public transport people and medical people. I mean, starting with one, I think he started first with public transport, and then you can't. It's a law that when you go into a business like a supermarket, you have to have a mask. You have to sanitize your hands. And what they were discussing at that time is, in order to go into the supermarket, you have to be vaccinated. And then I was thinking, oh boy, I better get out of here. Otherwise, how am I going to get my food? You have to send somebody else to go shopping for you. And of course there were even more stringent measures like that. You can't fly without being vaccinated. Can't get on an airplane, for example. So at about that time, it was just before Omicron. Bought plane tickets. I think it was around November 2021, and decided I'm going to get out of there before I can't get out of there on a small island like that. And medical care is not very good. But anyway, none of that stuff happens in Belarus. Actually, what I was trying to say to Margaret is why I support Lukashenko. And there's other reasons as well. For example, there were, at one point in time, there were bandits working. There's a highway that goes between, say, Warsaw and Moscow. It's a long, long, long highway, and it goes through Belarus as well. And these people, there was a big gang of bandits, and they were robbing people. Either, I can't remember exactly what the modus operandi was, if they were getting people whose car had broken down, or if they acted like their car was broken down, and then robbing people and stealing the trucks and all the goods in the trucks and all. But what happened was, the Lukashenko, the leader here, he had commissioned a lot of police officers, and I don't know if they're military or SWAT people, to act as if they're some regular people on this highway. And then they caught those bandits. Maybe they were still operating in Russia and in Poland, but they didn't operate in Belarus after that. That's just an example. There's a lot of instances like that. And another thing, you talk about, maybe people are saying, oh, Belarus is a police state. But I'll tell you what, even back in 2020 or 2001, it was a lot stricter back then. I was trying to take a photograph of the train station. It was quite modern. It was digital and all that, especially back in 2001. And a policeman came up to me, a young policeman, and he very politely said, you can't take photographs of these public or government buildings. I think it was maybe more controlled by the government at the time. I don't know. Smiled, was very polite. And like now, when you go in, if you have a large size bag like I have right now, and you're going into the subway, they had a terrorist attack sponsored by the opposition here in Belarus, and setting bombs in the subway and killed people. a lot of, I don't know how many people died on that one. So since that time, you know, people that come with large bags, you have to send it through a scanner. They don't search your bag like they do in St. Vincent and the Grenadines just to get on the ferry. You know, there's never been a terrorist attack in the ferry, but yet you have to, and they're very, very rude to you there. We have to look in your bag, you know. And I said, you know, I don't have anything against the bag because I expect it. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, but what they did to me there, and then they locked me up all day anyway. But here in Belarus, they're very polite. They say please, and then they say thank you after they send your bag through a scanner, and just look at it, you know, on the scanner. They don't open up your bag. You just send it through the scanner, done very quickly. You don't miss your metro train, and there's a metro train that comes every 5 minutes anyway. So this is just going into the metro. So all police are very polite here. They never come up and you know, like they have a chip on their shoulder like they do in America and trouble you. It's much different than in the United States. Those are just some of the things. And over the course of time, when I make more videos, I'll be telling you more about Lukashenko and what it's like here.